Welcome back. Chapter 2. I don't remember how I got home. I do remember that Carl wasn't able to drive us. I remember being undressed and sponge bathed. Somebody slipped a nightgown over my head and somebody helped me get in bed and pull the duvet up under my chin, but I still shivered. There was always arms around me, but I knew they were in Carl's arms. I kept wondering what was taking him so long to get home. I remember people knocking on the front door and pressing the doorbell and the house phone and cell phones ringing all day and into the middle of the night. I heard Odessa and Sadie and Corinthia and Lucky answering the same questions over and over. No, he hadn't been sick. It was a heart attack. No, Laretha is not doing well. She thanks you for your prayers. We will let you know about arrangements. Arrangements? I only like arranging flowers for the dining room table. Everything was so loud my ears were ringing. The vacuum, the dishwasher, running water. Somebody would sit up with me and wipe my face with a moist washcloth, rub my hands and feet, and stick a spoon in my mouth. Eat this, baby. Or put a cold glass or a warm cup against my lips and say, drink this, sweetheart. Somebody brushed my hair. B.B. King refused to leave my side, lying on a throw rug at the foot of the bed except when he heard the side door open, which was when he tried to run to meet Carl. When he realized it wasn't Carl, he just dropped to the floor and whimpered. He perked up when he saw me stand up and try to tighten the sash of my bathrobe, but I couldn't do it yet. My fingers were swollen and numb. Somebody tall put their arms around my back and guided me to the bathroom. I closed my eyes and wished it was my husband, but it was Poochie. Lean on me, she said, and squeezed my right hand, which I felt tingle. Thank you for coming, Poochie. Don't you dare, was what she said, as if I had offended her. It may have been the second or even the third day when I insisted on walking through the house just to see if I could. My friends and family had taken shifts and some slept in Jalicia's old room. She wasn't here. When I walked into the living room, my friends jumped up and parted like the sea and cupped my elbows to make sure I wouldn't crumple. When I made it to the kitchen, which had not been my destination, I just needed to move. I saw all kinds of casseroles and bowls of fried chicken and a honey-baked ham and macaroni and cheese on the table, and all four burners had pots with steam bursting out of the tops of them. I saw squares of yellow cornbread and collard greens and sweet potatoes and chafed in dishes. This was what was done, what we always did at wakes. But now I was the beneficiary. I did not have an appetite, and I didn't really care if I ever ate again. I opened the refrigerator just to see if I could. There were 2 glass pitchers of lemonade and iced tea. My throat was dry, but I was just not thirsty. When I looked around, I wished this was a surprise party, and for a minute, I wondered why Carl was late. It was another day or two before I could accept that my husband was not coming home and that I had to get up because I had to get up. I did not wear black to Carl's celebration of life service. I wore the white dress he brought me for my 65th birthday. He always said, "You need to show off those curves," and I thought he would like it. I didn't care if it was inappropriate. When I made it inside that large banquet room, it felt like I was sleepwalking. My chest felt like an accordion being pumped, and my palms were sore and chalky from being squeezed so hard. I pretended this was a wedding reception or a large baby shower or a banquet Carl had been honored at, and that he was just late getting here since we had come in separate cars. The scent of all those damn flowers on the 25 tables and the pictures of him as a teenager on the football team, of us when we got married, of him when he was in the Coast Guard just made me angry. He should have been here by now to see all these people who came to acknowledge how important he was to them. But Carl was not late. He was not coming to this celebration of his life. He was in a silver urn at home on our fireplace mantle. Oh. Sadie insisted on handing out the programs. I was grateful, although a lot of people had no idea who she was, so she just pretended to be a family member and introduced herself as such. Even Carl's relative believed her. I had given her a short Vivica Fox auburn wig she just had to have a few months ago, but with her beige skin and faded freckles, it made her look like she was on fire. Sadie is afraid of makeup, so it's a good thing she's basically pretty. She wore one of the many black suits she owns, but this one still had the tag on it. I managed to pull it off. There was too much black in this room. Not people, but suits and dresses. Carl had friends of every shade and ethnicity, and they were all here. Ma insisted on leaving an empty seat next to me for Carl. This seat is taken, Lucky or Corinthia or Poochie would politely say for me. Odessa helped Ma sit in the chair directly on my left and then patted my right shoulder and handed me a long white envelope. This may be the wrong time, but don't open it until you're calm. Why does she need to be calm? Ma asked. Odessa raked her fingers through her thick black page boy and started pulling on the ends. I just meant when things calm down. This is a lot to handle, and I'm sorry I've been so busy I haven't been able to make it over more. It looks like I might be moving, but this is not the time or the place to talk about it. My heart goes out to you. Carl was a good man. Everybody at the table just nodded. I rolled the envelope in my hands until it looked like a thick cigarette, knowing there was probably a check inside. Odessa's timing was always bad, and today was no different. I had forgotten that I've given her that black dress last year because it was too tight on me. I had to admit she looked good in it. She sat to Ma's left and kept her white handkerchief balled up in her hand and tried not to notice the liquor that was melting the ice in the light blue goblets at many of the tables, including ours. I was grateful she brought our mother and that Ma insisted on coming. Ma said Carl was the only real son-in-law she had, which was not true. She had 2 others from me and 1 from Odessa. But according to Odessa, Ma had said none of those others amounted to shit, so they don't count. Odessa, of course, couldn't bring herself to say shit. Why don't they have velvet valet parking here? Ma had asked as soon as she sat down. What kind of golf club is this anyway? Tiger wouldn't play 9 holes here, no doubt about it. Are they serving Hennessy at this repast? No alcohol for you, Ma, Odessa said. We're here to say goodbye to Carl. A double shot wouldn't stop me, she said and squeezed my hand. All I can say is I'll be glad when I die. To be honest, I thought I'd be dead by now, but it seemed to be taking forever. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't think she meant it. I hadn't seen Ma in real clothes in almost a year. She was wearing a navy blue suit with rhinestone buttons that hugged off her, along with white gloves, but she also had on gold Nikes because Odessa had forgotten to retrieve her real shoes from the boxes stacked in the garage at Ma's empty house. And even though she was sitting next to me, Ma clutched her silver pocketbook as though somebody might try to rob her. "Where is my grandson? I don't see him," she asked, looking around as if she was hoping to spot Jackson. "He's in Japan with his family, Ma. He lives there with his Japanese wife and his daughters," Odessa said. "Why don't you show some respect, Odessa?" Ma asked, not expecting an answer. "Who cares if his wife is Japanese? Even I know everybody can love who they want to love. My Lord. Can you try not to be a racist today, Odessa? Please?" This almost made me smile. Odessa just took a sip of her water. "I had no idea Carl was friends with so many Mexicans." After she just told Odessa. Mom blurted out as she looked around the room filled with close to 200 people. "Who in the heck are all these giant Negroes?" "Carl's people? Two of them young boys over there definitely got the best of the family genes, because the rest of them are downright homely. Look at how many tables they take up." She thought this was funny. The truth was, the giant Negroes she was referring to were about 20 of Carl's all-male first, second, and third cousins, and a few of their sons. They had taken a Greyhound from Flint because they were able to get a group rate, even though quite a few of them had never even met Carl. One of them, who looked so much like Carl it was scary, said, "We just wanted to get out of Flint for a quick minute to see what California is all about and to show our respects, of course." One of the younger ones, who appeared to be a little slow, shocked me when he asked, "Why'd you have to burn him up?" I didn't know how to answer that question in a way he would understand, so I just looked him in the eye and said, "Because it was what Carl wanted." The entire clan was staying at a Motel 6, but they'd been piling into a single room and sleeping on the floor, including one person in the bathtub. Is it that serious? When I realized that, I offered to pay for enough rooms so they could all at least have beds. They accepted my offer. Two of the younger ones said they were not planning to get back on that bus to Flint, and could they move into the newly renovated 2-bedroom apartment down the hall from Cinnamon and Jonas. I found myself saying yes. I would give them 3 months to find a job that paid the rent, or back to Flint they'd go. I was shocked but relieved when I saw Jaleesa saunter through the doorway past Sadie without even acknowledging her, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Well, at least her daughter made it. She was wearing a crinkly black gauze dress and black ankle boots I had bought her 2 years ago from Macy's, and she had that now dull diamond stud in her left nostril, looking at her cobalt blue polish. It was obvious she was in need of a fill. She walked over to my table and said, "So sorry for your loss," like people do on TV series. I almost slapped her. Carl was more a father to her than her biological one. She managed to give me a stiff hug, and her mildew-scented dreadlocks scratched my right cheek. It almost felt like she did that on purpose. Her breath smelled like mint, but it didn't cover the stink of what I knew to be 80 proof. I don't know why I wasn't surprised when her Aunt Peggy came sauntering in right behind her with a small package of Kleenex in her hand. She looked unhealthy too, and her long, thick black braids had lint in them. But then again, it looked more like dandruff, which made her collar look like Swiss dots, even though her black dress was solid. She pretended like she was mourning somebody, but it wasn't Carl. I let her hug me, but I didn't hug her back because I didn't know what made her think I needed her sympathy. This time last year, I was in the backyard gardening when Peggy called and said, "Happy birthday, Loretha." "Who is this?" I asked, since the number was blocked. "Peggy." "Peggy who? Don't try to act like you don't remember me." Even though I could already tell that Peggy, whoever, was a complete bitch, I said, refresh my memory. I'm your first husband's half sister, which would make me your daughter's step auntie or something like that. I don't remember meeting you. I did, but it was years before and I disliked her then too. How'd you get my number and who told you it was my birthday and why should it matter to you? Well, that's a mouthful. Jaleesa gave it to me years ago, right before Antonio died, but I didn't think it was worth telling you then. I remember shoving my shovel deeper into the soft soil because I was suspicious. I figured Peggy must want something. What is it you want? I heard myself ask. Wow, I heard you always had a streak. But to make a long story short, I just saw Jaleesa a few days and she told me you were having a birthday party and I would like to come. Why? I asked. Just to catch up. But what do we have to catch up about? Your daughter. Then another time, I said and hung up. Peggy hadn't come to my 67th birthday party, but then neither had Jaleesa. I hadn't heard from her again until now. I turned to my daughter. So, Cinnamon's going to sing. Yes, and maybe the baby she's carrying will be as happy as I am about it. I smiled at her, but she didn't smile back. Well, I hope we catch up soon, Jaleesa. It's your call, was all she said and walked away. What did her mama do? They sat 2 tables over with Cinnamon, who was her daughter, after all, and Jonas, close to the makeshift stage. When Cinnamon begged me to let her sing a song for her grandpa Carl, I told her I wouldn't have it any other way. I also let her know how thrilled I was when her grandpa told me she was pregnant. I did my best to sound convincing. I wrote it just for him, Grandma, because both of you have been so good to Jonas and me. He would love it. I didn't have the heart to say no. Cornethia, Lucky, and Poochie filled the seats to my right. They all wore simple black dresses. Cinnamon gave me a look as her mother sat down beside her. Was it time? I gave her a look back. It's okay. Cinnamon stepped up to the mic and announced that she'd be singing a song she'd written just for Carl, which everybody thought was touching until she started singing something about him being in a better place. These people are vicious. Everybody was trying to look as if what they were hearing was pleasant, but they kept looking down and turning their heads to the side, and after foregoing on 5 minutes, their frozen smiles started to thaw. It wasn't until Cinnamon put the microphone back into the stand and backed away that folks realized she had finished, which was when they started clapping. She didn't sound good, but she didn't sound half as bad as I thought she would. I could tell her mother was pleased as I watched her squeeze her daughter and kiss her on the cheek. Then Jaleesa stood up and slung her purse over her shoulders, and as she headed towards the door, Peggy whispered something in Jaleesia's ear. Well, at least she came, Ma. Ma said. Everybody just hummed. When I saw Peggy sauntered over to me, I felt myself tensing up. Hello, everybody. Larethia, I know this may not be the appropriate time, but do you have a minute? The testimonials are about to start. Is this something that can wait? It'll only take a few minutes. So I got up and walked to the back of the room. She looked over at the door and I could see Jaleesa standing with her back turned, waiting. At first, Jaleesa said she wasn't coming because you two have been on bad terms ever since you fired her from one of your beauty supply stores for something she didn't do. But that's between you two. Anyway, you should know she's been living with people she probably shouldn't be living with, and as you can see, she doesn't look so healthy. I just want you to know that I will do all I can to watch her until you do. Again, I'm sorry for your loss. And she turned and walked towards the door. Who was that? Ma asked. Jalicia's ex-aunt, Antonio's sister or something. Is something wrong? Odessa asked. No, I said, and tried to change the worried look on my face back to grief. Well, I thought Cinnamon sounded sincere, was the best response I could muster. I waited for one of my friends to say something, but they all just nodded in agreement. After everyone gave their testimonial about how much Carl meant to them, Mom turned to me and said, remember, Laretha, I don't want to be cremated. I've already got my favorite dress picked out. And by the way, I've changed my mind about a wig. I want to show whatever hair I have left, but I want to wear my mint green hat over it. They're both in my pink suitcase in the garage at my house. Promise me. Okay, Ma, but this isn't the time to talk about it. I don't see why not. Try to see if you can get these same caterers when my time comes, because this food was delicious and everything was just so classy. She then leaned over and whispered, I also want you to know I've changed my mind about moving back into my house. I've started to like being around folks my age. I'm leaving it to Odessa, but please don't tell her until after I kick the bucket, because I don't trust her. She might try to have me bumped off, but she can't have my Corolla. This is all in my will. I didn't want to tell her we donated the Corolla right after we found it in the parking lot where she lost it, or remind her that Carl and I bought that house for her 18 years ago, that it was still in our names, and that we had been planning to put it on the market to help defray the cost of her assisted living care. I did not give a speech at the celebration because I couldn't. Besides, Carl knew I had celebrated his life every single day for the 25 years he was mine. I did not change the pillowcase. I inhaled it for weeks, and when I couldn't smell him anymore, I sprayed it with the cologne he always wore. I turned his pillow sideways and clutched it, hoping I might feel Carl's heart beating again. But my arms went limp each time because he had disappeared, and I knew that nothing I did was going to bring him back. I tried anyway. I dreamed more than once that this was all just a big misunderstanding, that he had just taken a vacation without me. I walked around the house in a daze, stopping to sit down at random, on the couch, in a kitchen chair. It was too quiet. I wanted to rewind this horrible movie. Back to the beginning. I let myself cry quietly, and sometimes I did not know what I was supposed to do without him. I put a close until further notice sign on the door of the Pasadena House of Beauty, and I paid the 2 girls who've been working there 3 months' salary. I didn't know how to run it without me. They didn't know how to run it without me. I did the same for the Los Angeles store, even though I had been thinking about selling that one. It was too much work, and besides, I didn't need the money. Dinner time was the worst, eating alone, but I had a hard time at bedtime too. Sleeping alone made me feel empty. I often fell asleep with the TV on and woke up to shows about glaciers and mountains and the seas and planets and forests on the BBC channel. Their beautiful was like a lullaby. I didn't know what to do with Carl's toothbrush. I could not bring myself to throw it away. I hated walking into our walk-in closet and seeing his suits on their hangers, his size 13 shoes lined up like they were on a shelf in a famous footwear outlet. What to do with his socks, his underwear? I did not want to give up what he'd left behind. This was just not fair. I wanted to die first. Carl was stronger than me. He knew how to handle loss. When his brother died in a head-on collision 10 years ago, Carl ached, but he was more concerned with helping his brother's wife and kids get through it. You do what needs to be done when people need you to be strong, Lo. I've been trying to do what needs to be done, but I was not prepared for this hole Carl left in my heart. in my life. How in the world am I going to fill it? And with what? And where on earth do I go from here? I have no idea. About 5 years ago, I made a little show of exchanging our wills. He wanted, reread that. About 5 years ago, Carl and I made a little show of exchanging our wills. He wanted to have a party to celebrate his life rather than a depressing service. But his biggest demand was if he should go first, that I not spend the rest of my life mourning him, and that I not give up on finding love again. I had actually cracked up laughing while I was reading it. He didn't think it was one bit funny. So you mean to tell me that if I happen to leave this world first, you would really be thinking about how to find another woman to replace me? Well, I'm not saying I'd be out looking, but I manage it could get lonely, and having a dog around isn't the same thing as having somebody to talk to and have dinner with. But where in the world would you look? You're taking this too far, Lo. Consider we're both alive and kicking. Answer the question, Billy D. Williams. We both laughed, and I remember throwing a piece of French bread at him and missing. B.B. King, who still was very quick at that time, grabbed it in his mouth and took off. Carl was lucky I didn't grab a handful of my delicious spaghetti and meatball, or he'd have been covered in it. Not church, I hope. Those old bitches aren't any fun and probably wouldn't even let you kiss them, I said. He laughed. They have dating sites now for seniors, you know. My eyes got big, and I was giving tossing that last meatball a lot more consideration. You mean you've already put some thought into this? No, sweetie, but they advertised them on TV. I wouldn't want you to sit around here all by yourself. I would like to know you're still having fun. Okay, well, if I should happen to go first, would you please send me a text to let me know when you found an adequate replacement? And then we both started laughing, and I ate that meatball. I also asked if we could read mine another day because I didn't want to spend the rest of the night thinking about dying. He agreed, and we downloaded Coming to America and watched it in each other's arm. Truth be told, I'm really pissed at Carl for keeping his high blood pressure a secret, because he lied when he said the pills he was taking were only for his arthritis. I know why he didn't tell me. He didn't want to scare me or give me cause to worry. But I have since found out from his doctor that he could have and probably should have had surgery to fix the problem in his heart. But Carl was afraid he wouldn't survive. If he was here, I would really kick his ass. But I can't. And that's the end of chapter 2. Oh, this was a funny and sweet and touching chapter. And I'm sorry that Carl is gone, but it sounds like she got a lot of friends to surround her. And I want to know, other than firing her daughter, what else problem her daughter have with her? And my question to you, do you think that the son still could have made the funeral, even though he have a newborn baby? Or that's too much? But that's all I have. So I'm going to see you in the next chapter. Bye for now.